my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be my spoiler-free review for The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. I will have the content warnings for this book linked down below in the description. This is a pretty dark one, and it's a lot, so let's go ahead and get into it. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride follows a married couple where, in exchange for her love, the wife makes her husband promise to never pry into her past. But when they are forced to return to her childhood home, he finds that he can no longer resist. Let's go ahead and start with our three main characters, Indigo, Azor, and the bridegroom. I can't remember if he had an actual name or not. When I wrote my review, I just referred to him as the guy, which is actually kind of fitting for how I feel about his character as a whole. I feel like he played his role well, and he did have an interesting thing in his storyline that I liked, and I liked how it was utilized throughout the story. Otherwise, not much personality here. I was on his side in this, but not too attached. Next up is Indigo. She is super twisted, which I feel like the story really makes work for it. Like, she is a total nightmare. We'll talk about the imagery a little bit later on in this review, but I do feel like she and just everything that she had going on was a major part of that. So I do want to give her some credit for that, but otherwise she gets nothing because that's what she deserves. And finally, we do have Azor. She was my favorite to read, mostly just because her chapters were the ones that really dove into the past, and I wanted to know just everything about that and the mystery of it all. And the bridegroom's chapters had that kind of intrigue as well to them, but definitely not as strong for me. We do get both his and Azor's point of views in here, but I do feel like I got to know everyone really, really well. On that note, I got incredibly invested in this story. I was in a little bit of a reading slump going into this book. This book didn't necessarily take me out of that reading slump, but it was a break from the reading slump, which I do really appreciate. And I just got fully sucked into this, and I never wanted to put it down. As for the romance, I mean, I definitely didn't ship anyone in here, but I did like how this book utilized romance and romantic things, especially combined with the dark gothic atmosphere, because a lot of the romance was also dark and messed up. I don't necessarily think that this worked all of the time, but I was already invested, so it didn't end up taking me out of the story too much. I also really, really loved the atmosphere. I found the writing style to be a little bit too much at times, like trying too hard. And then there were also moments where I felt a little bit confused, and I don't always think that the writing style was the easiest to read, but otherwise, I did really like it. It was very flowery, very lyrical, and I thought that it paired well and added positively to the atmosphere and the storyline. And I loved how the beauty of it combined and maybe even contrasted with the gothic and dark nature of everything else. Another word that I would use to describe this book is definitely haunting, which I love that. As I mentioned earlier, this book had some really fun imagery. Some of it was very creepy and dark and disturbing, and some of it was magical and beautiful, and some of it was that combination of all of those things. I also really love the way that this book used magic and fantasy. It also invokes other stories, and I loved how those were incorporated and invoked throughout this story. They definitely blurred the lines between fantasy and reality in a way that wasn't always clear, which was amazing most of the time. There were a couple of instances where I wish that they would have been more clear about that, mostly when it comes to the setting and the house. And as you may or may not know, I love a spooky, mysterious house, and while I definitely enjoyed what this book gave me when it comes to that, I do think that it could have been stronger at times. We spent a lot of this book in the past, and I do think that that is where this excelled the most, and I loved reading it all come to light and get exposed. I'm not sure how I feel about the ending though. I don't think that I liked it. But I don't know what I would have wanted from it though, which is why I am kind of conflicted. It was fine, but compared to the rest of the book, I guess it's probably just my least favorite part. Overall, this book gave me exactly what I wanted from it at the end of the day. It was dark and twisty and haunting, and I was fully along for the ride. It was a lot, and I definitely do think that it was a lot, but in a good way, especially for October, so I ended up giving The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi 4.5 out of 5 stars. Also, gorgeous cover, by the way. Okay, so that is all that I have for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that, and hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye!